welcome to Dark Fate Tarot. You are joining me on the end of a bit of a rainy day in Brussels. Welcome to new subscribers, welcome back to those who already know me. So I am doing a VR to Tarot is Magic called Let's Be Tarot Friends. This is a long overdue VR, and I want to start off with an apology because I was tagged. I'm so honored, and Tarot is Magic has a wonderful channel. Please go and check out her channel. She's doing flip throughs, walkthroughs, an in-depth look at one of my favorite decks, which is of course the Herb Crafter's Tarot. So much good stuff on that channel, and I really encourage you to go and have a look at the content there, because there's a lot of thought being put into kind of like, discussing decks basically. So yeah, so I want to say that, and I want to say thank you as well for asking for, if I wanted to participate, which is always welcome. I always feel like a spare wheel in a room, and so it's very nice. And yeah, this is my long awaited overdue VR, so I'm finally getting around to it, and thank you again. Okay, so the very first prompt is, what type of art are you looking for in a deck? And I think that's a great question, actually. I look for anything, and it sounds just very broadly speaking, anything that touches my soul. So for example, when we look at decks like, let's pick one up here, right? So let's look at the Ocean Arcana. This deck, I mean, I'm not really an oceans person, but this deck, the first time I saw it, I just knew it reminds me of, one of my favorite books, which is Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It really reminds me of that sense of adventure and finding something at the bottom of an ocean. It just touched my 11-year-old soul, like the little girl that read books like this. I read Moby Dick, or I read, like Little Women is one of my favorite books as well. I'm just someone that read classics, and I didn't really have that many friends who read that stuff, and so I was a little bit lonely. And then when I see decks like this, it's like, that kid, she finds kind of like comfort in stuff like this. So yeah, I think that the best way I can describe it is, I love art that just evokes that sense of warmth, that sense of wonder. I think wonder is a huge part of my journey. And it kind of like makes me go back into a different, perhaps a different part of my life, a different period. Another deck that of course I love is the Keeper of the Sacred Bee Tarot. This is an example that of course an art that I like, because it really kind of like, again, invokes that feeling of, my mother basically, because I really hear she has a bee energy basically. And, again, this invokes a sense of kind of like structure, like the art here kind of like speaks to me in the sense of, when I read with this deck, when I look at this deck, it just forever tells me exactly what I'm supposed to do next, kind of thing. It's a very logical deck for me. It's that hive kind of like, it's that beam behavior of like, go forward and get on with what you need to do. And that's what it says to me. And yeah, I just really, really love this deck. So, and I love the color again. I love the artwork. I love this technique between collage, but also artwork that's been done, paintings that have been done. I love the symmetry in this deck. It's beautiful symmetry, and it's just pops of color. So this deck for me really represents, that energy which is extremely alive. I can feel the buzz when I work with this deck. Whenever even I take it out, I can feel the vibration from it. And so yeah, this is another example of art that would draw me in. And then perhaps, going into a completely different space would be something like the Dreaming Way Tarot. I mean, when we look at this art, this is just so whimsical. This really speaks to the fae in me, but not as a direct fairy deck, which is very clever, but more as a deck where I'm like, the costumes, the way that the art jumps out at me, the way that the characters come at me. I love the costumes in this deck. I just can't get over it. I know a lot of people don't like them. I'm like, for me, the costumes make the deck because they're so surreal and they're avant-garde and they're really kind of like, I feel like they could be on a catwalk. That is that kind of thing. I mean, tarot recently has been in fashion. I'm kind of like, somebody must have seen Rome Choi's work, because this is surreal. By the way, I need to actually be clear here. Rome Choi is the author, I apologize. Quan Shina is the artist for this deck. So yeah, so I just really, really love the costumes in this deck, the surrealness, the fact that it's kind of like, I could go back a few hundred years and then there's something very modern all of a sudden in it, like even in this card or some of these cards, we have a very modern feel, like something very Victorian here. And then if I go ahead to another deck, another card like this one, this is not Victorian, this is more definitely Georgian and further and onwards, sorry, and more contemporary in that sense. So yeah, I really like this deck because it just plays a lot with time, with fashion, with clothing, with juxtapositions, with how people are seated. It's a very airy deck. It's a great air deck. And yeah, so this is something I would also look for in a deck. A deck that not challenges, but gets me into that whimsical fantasy space, that I am kind of like, very much from. That's part of my nature. And I'll end the prompt with this particular deck. Let me just do this for a second, which is the Paulina Tarot, which was my very first tarot deck after the Rider-Waite-Smith. And, this speaks to my heart. I mean, this I bought along the same time as the Rider-Waite-Smith, actually. And I learned on the RWS, the Pamela Collins-Smith drawings, but this is the deck that I actually started to take with me for readings because I just loved it so much. It's so magical, so whimsical. It's kind of like so detailed, but it's a little piece of my soul. And the artwork here reminds me of my teenage years, actually. It's very strange, but I came across a lot of this art when I was a teenager on cards that were being done. And I remember just feeling like, I just want to save the card. It's like greeting cards. I just want to save the card because it's so whimsical and beautiful. And so this deck, when I saw it, I just knew that I need to learn to work with this deck because I really want this to be a part of my tarot journey. And it has been, it still is my core deck, basically. It kind of like sits in that kind of like the deck that opened me up to tarot beyond RWS. And interestingly, I had no idea then that I would become Dark Fae Tarot. I now look back and I think, wow, actually that makes a lot of sense. But when I bought this deck, I didn't know that was the journey I was about to take. So there you go. So yeah, I hope that helps you have a bit of an understanding of decks that art that inspires me. And it goes back to, it's all to do with resonance and inner journeying. So what do you search for in a deck? Okay, that made me question and think about depiction and the challenges and preconceptions. So I look for, I've just talked about the art, but what do I search for in a deck? I search for storytelling. So for example, we have here the Tower of Little Prince. This is one of the decks that I grabbed as an example. I bought this recently, but I've been wanting this deck for ages, and it is just stunning. This one's not in order. It's just stunning because there's so much story. Of course, it follows the story of Tower of the Little Prince. So I would definitely encourage you to purchase the book, read the book. Actually, I think now it's freely available because it's gone out of copyright. At least in Europe it has. But yeah, this is a story about hope. It's a story about disappointments, discovery, making friends, losing friends, encountering people who are stuck, encountering people who might, have your best interest, but then sometimes people who don't. It's a story, right, of journeying, of bravery, of courage, of you know, disappointment and getting hurt and it doesn't work out, and things looking odd, and getting obsessed about something. You know, this is the rose, you know, part of the obsession of the story. So yeah, and you know, it's also about being a child and having that childlike imagination and creativity that gets stomped out of us when we become adults. And I say that when the fool turns up, right? So this story for me is just beautiful, but the deck is gorgeous because it's such a fantastic storytelling deck. And even as I just spread it out, you can just see how stunning the artwork is and how beautifully it flows. So yeah, I look for that in a deck. Another deck that I could show you that I look for in a deck, and let me see if I find it. I'm sorry if I'm not completely prepared 100%, but I really, really wanted to make this video. So another one that I can show you is, let me see if I can grab it. Yeah. A deck that, again, makes me look at tarot again. This is the Dream Keeper's Tarot by Liz Houston. You know, this deck I think is phenomenally underrated, and I love it. I love that we don't have forced diversity. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. I love that it's true to what its depiction is. It does go back to mythology, and yet it's done with these collage or fantasy. I don't know what it is. Fantasy art? I don't know what kind of art this is. Not fantasy art. I don't know, some kind of surreal computer imagery art that's been done. It's not AI, of course. This is well before those days. And I just love it. I love that it makes me think further. It makes me question things. This could have easily been part of the first prompt as well. Again, you know, it's very unique art. I love these drawings. I mean, look, she's got the river flowing through her cloak, or the sky. I don't know. You see, it's just so clever. Because usually you have the river here at the bottom, right, for the Empress. Just so clever. You can see there. And like, look, she's got these shadows there. Just beautifully done. And so, yeah, you know, what do I search for in a deck? I search for a deck that's been thought out, well thought out, has, you know, the creator has taken time. And, you know, this goes also into guidebook telling, right? I mean, look at the Six of Cups. And then oh, look, very quickly opened up to the Six of Cups. That's just, and I'm just going to read a little bit at the top. I'm not going to read all of it. It says Six of Cups, nostalgia and attachment to the past. Two children sit in a friendly embrace on the skeleton of a swan, sharing resources and warmth between them. Deeply and joyously connected, they mirror each other, both in appearance and in attitude. So, you know, then it has a positive light reflection. It has a more darker reflection. And then it has a divinatory message and keywords. I mean, this is a well thought out deck, not just in terms of its art, but also the guidebook, its resonance with mythology as well, beautifully done. And so what I look for in a deck is a deck where there is a story, and it's either a story based on perhaps already a well-known kind of, like, you know, all stories have structures that we know, but, you know, a story of courage and bravery and triumphance, or stories of myths and legends. But the deck has its own journey going on. Okay, that's me rabbiting on. What deck are you most intrigued by right now, and why? That's a very, very good question. Okay, so what do I show you? So one of the decks that falls into this category, I don't think I could show you because it's got very explicit imagery in it, but I will mention it. And it's Mother Tarot. I'm not going to show too much of the images. I wanted to think before I show this because there are quite explicit images in this. But this is the kind of thing that intrigues me right now. And it has been since I've been working with the Dark Days Tarot, which is its sister deck. But that's right now where I'm at. It's just feminism, it's sexuality, it's power. I mean, look at something like the Moon Power Tarot, right, by Charlie Quintero from Six Sad Girls. When we look at a deck like this, it just is so provoking of the female spirit and who we are and our magic, our intuition, but just it's a deck that pushes the boundaries. It makes me think of what I do feel about these archetypes. How do I embrace the world? Like, this is the 9 of, I've got to get this right now. Right, we're still in 1 territory, I think. Yeah, this is the 9 of Wands. I mean, what a interesting 9 of Wands. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so you see that, and I just laugh. I mean, I just love. I mean, look at that ace. I mean, yeah, and they're tied together. They're braided together. It's just a very, very clever deck, and so what am I intrigued by right now? I mean, look at that 3 of Swords. Can she be any more dead? I just love stuff like the position of the feet in this. She looks like she's like so much in pain. And it's just, yeah, I just got to take a moment there to look. The swords have definitely gone all the way through. You can see that. So yeah, I just, decks like these, ooh, that's the Page of Swords. They're hands, but for a second they look like feet. And then there's an eye. I mean, this deck is just like, what is going on here? So yeah, I mean, a fool there. So clearly a child that's lost, basically. So yeah, I wanted to mention this deck because it intrigues me. It pushes the boundaries. It is beautifully done. I love the way it's been produced. It's beautifully produced. That was the top, sorry. It's beautifully produced, and I think at the beginning of my tarot journey, honestly, I would not have appreciated this. I would have got it, but not really appreciated the depth of this. So I'm glad that I've got it at this stage in my journey because, I'm learning. That's how I see it. Always, I'm always learning. Okay, is there a card in a deck you always check out first, and why? That's a good question. And to answer that question, let's take another deck. Okay, so let's take, sorry, you're hearing me wandering around my own apartment right now. Let's take Prisma Visions, right, by James R. Eads. And let's look at, is this in order? Yeah, it is in order. Great, because it makes it easier. Okay, so these are the cards that I don't even know if this one's has what I'm looking for. Okay, so for example, let's get the, there, yeah, okay. I will look for things like, see, this one won't have it. This always upsets me. 7 of Cups. I want to see all of them illustrated. That's what I look for in a deck. I also look at the 5 of Cups, but that's because that's, according to the Golden Dawn decan thing, which I don't personally think is that fantastic, but okay. I will look at the 5 of Cups and I will see, because that's the card, I will see how it resonates with me, this feeling of loss and not seeing that, there's still 2 left. A card that has stalked me, it's not stalking me now, but it has stalked me before. I had a very interesting relationship with it for a while, and here it is, I'll show it to you, is the Page of Swords. So I will these days look for the Page of Swords because she was with me for so long last year. I'll also, of course, always look at the 6 of Swords. That's something that's really important to me as well. Look at that 6 of Swords and that moving away. So these are cards that mean a lot to me. The courts I will always look at as well. I want to see how the courts have been depicted. Like here, this page, very interesting. What do we have? It's like the vines are looping around him. That's so beautiful. Look at our knight here. Steady and, you know, very, very careful where that unicorn treads. Look at our beautiful Queen of Pentacles. So well poised here. And, you know, she's creating, and look at those strawberries that are just, they're happening around her. And then finally our King of Pentacles, who's literally balancing on a bull. Stuff like this makes my heart sing. I think it's tarot at its best. So I will look for those things. I will look for the attention to detail in the courts, in the Five of Cups, in the Seven of Cups, in the Six of Swords as well, as I just mentioned, and the Page of Swords. So yeah, it's a mixture between the work taken to illustrate that card, but also the personal resonance with myself. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I think it does. Okay, the next prompt is there one card in a deck you really don't like? Would you want to miss out on it? And quite simply put, no. No. Let's take a deck and open it while I talk about this. I've got so much fun stuff here all around me. Hold on a second. I'm just going to take out a deck and so I can flip through it, this Tarot of Curious Creatures. Fun deck. I don't want to have a card removed. And the reason why I don't want that is because when we start doing things like that, it's almost like I feel like the keys are a representation of aspects of life. And everybody's not going to probably experience all 78 keys. I'm not sure about that. You know, I mean, maybe they can. It just depends on how we interpret, right? But the point I'm saying is these are moments of life. And I would not want to take away the moments of life on my journey, because I can't be at the space I'm at right now without having had those moments, no matter how difficult or painful or lost I felt or happy and joyous I felt, or how much, you know, I wanted to forge ahead or whatever's going on in my life. You know, there are memories that are created right by our life. And the 78 keys are passages, they're doorways that we're going through all the time. And so it's not really, in a way, fair or justice. Life isn't fair. Life isn't just. Life is life. And I think that, you know, what we all talk about in the end is how do we respond to that? It's not always right. I'm not saying that. I mean, there's definitely some things that I just wish, you know, would not happen to other people, never mind myself as well. But, you know, there's just so much that we learn, right? Look at that Five Swords, just so beautiful and magical. The cat wants to get rid of it, and the sword is, and the mouse like, no, I'm going to fight back. Thank you, no, thank you. You know, and that's it. Like, even in moments of betrayal, where nobody's really winning, right? Everybody's been stabbed here. She's getting stabbed, he's getting stabbed, but it's kind of like, that's life. That's part of life. That's part of, you know, our journey. Sometimes we just have to move on, and here's the hare and the turtle, and in the end no one wins, right? Like, the hare thinks that they're going to get there faster, but then they need the turtle and blah blah blah. So yeah, I feel like this whole thing, a beautiful Ten of Swords, this whole thing just, you know, about, do I want to get rid of a card? Well, no, because the system has been made to reflect many points, and there could be even more we could add to it. So it's really a joy to have something like this, right, that we can work with and use, and it's not tied to like some kind of formal institution and must and so forth, right? We get to interpret the cards how we feel we're seeing with them, right? Our intuition and our resonance. Okay, so What is your least favorite card in tarot and why? I found this one a bit hard because I didn't want to like pick on a card. What happens is I think a card is my least favorite, and then literally like within a day or two, that card will show me something and I'll be like, oh, that's amazing. You know, so that's why I'm a bit like, I don't really want to say least favorite or something. But anyway, I will get them out. So this is the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinan. So is this in order? Because if it's in order, no, it's not, then I can find it, but maybe we can. So my favorite card in a deck, it is there though, right there, is the Justice card right now. It used to be another card, but I've really, Justice for the last 2 years has just been my favorite. It's just everything about that balance. My Pluto is in Libra, but everything is about that balance, but also that fairness, and not, like I just said, life is not just, right? And that blindness, to walk that path, to sometimes feel aggravated, but keep it steady. The mind, you know, Libra is in that cardinal space, so it's rising. The energy is rising of clarity, of truth, of partnerships, of balance. It's coming into being. It's coming out of the ether and into a space of presence, right? And then we have in the fixed sign of Aquarius where it becomes really present. But, you know, in the cardinal injustice, we're encountering for the first time that element of it's not fair. And I think it's a great card for me personally, you know, born under 5 of Cups. It's a great card for me. My least favorite, you know, this is what happens. Like I said, right? I have a card that will be a least favorite, and then it's going to teach me a lesson, which is exactly what happened in preparation for this video. In preparation for this video is exactly what happened. Will I find the card though in time? Hold on a second. Here it is. I found it. The 4 of Cups. Now, I've always read this card as apathy, not seeing the opportunity coming in, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, you know. But recently, I saw this card as resistance. I saw it as resistance and almost as if, you know, insisting on keeping the doorway shut, not wanting to see what's being provided. And that the missed opportunity can become a big part of a change in life, a change in direction. The 4s are a stagnation area, whether we like it or not. Good stagnation or bad stagnation. Good or bad doesn't really matter, but you know what I mean. Like sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're quite painful. But the 4s are a moment of stopping. And I found recently myself asking myself that, you know, there's a stubbornness here that can cost. It can really cost something. And so I've been really pondering this card. There's so many layers to it. I'm going to look at it even further. I'm at the beginning of it. But because I said to myself, oh God, the 4 of Cups, you know, I find that one like my least favorite. I knew straight away it was going to start teaching me a lesson, and it did. Recently, I've really had a lot of feedback. I was just going to see if I can just give me a moment. Yeah, I mean, I think I even made some notes about it a few days ago in my notebook, in my journal, but I probably can't find them, about the 4 of Cups. You know, I'm trying to flick through my own journal right now, which is obviously not a good idea to do whilst filming. Yeah, 4 of Cups. It's a level of frustration, and I don't want to see the solution. That's what I wrote. Sometimes 4 of Cups is I don't want to see the solution, which is like, well, that's helpful, isn't it? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's summed up. There goes the universe saying, I'll teach you a lesson here. Okay. What do people close to you feel about the tarot and you doing tarot? I'm still in the tarot closet. I don't go around advertising this. Okay, how do you feel about the esoteric stuff in tarot? What, my jaw just dropped open actually. I come from an astrology background, so for me, the esoteric stuff is quintessential to the tarot. But do I feel like it should be forced or something like, everybody needs to learn those aspects? No. Sorry, you're hearing me wandering around the room again, and that's because I'm going to get another deck out. I can't find the smaller version of this, so you're going to have to excuse me. I have here my huge dinner plate Thoth. I can't find the smaller one right now that I have. I also have a mini. But this is a very, I'm going to get out the Thoth right now. Wow, okay, we're really going for it, aren't we? But I sometimes get very, very frustrated personally when I feel as if it's almost like the correspondences are like a joke or something. I know I'm overly serious. I'm a Scorpio. I'm overly serious. I'm a Scorpio with I'm kind of like a bit too dead serious, I know. But I'm someone that really, the geometry of Lady Frida Harris's work is just, it's unique. She's taken time to study the Eastern geometric patterns and then do her own. This is stuff that, people just miss of what's going on here. The fish, the fish, then we have here these ghostly spirits in the back and then them trapped here. Just the whole thing is just bizarre, strange, and packed with meaning. The eagle in the background. This is not just a Scorpio card. This is the card that it's interactions with the Pisces sign, its interactions with the Cancerian sign. This looks a little bit like a sailboat. There's so much going on here in this one. And then we have here, of course, the Scorpio. We just have so much going on here. The whole rib cage. There's a meaning behind that rib cage. There's a meaning behind that hat. It's just these cards, the Thoth, like the jackal here. These are just iconic, and I find that when it's not, I don't know how else to put it. Like I did Tarot of the Spirit, and I did that whole study last December, October, November, December, because it is Thoth based, and I wanted my Thoth studies to be taken, my esoteric studies to be taken on with the Kabbalic aspect. So for me, it's just, it makes me the reader I am. Does everybody else have to be like this? No, they don't. I wouldn't want to force this route on someone, but it's who I am. There you go. RWS, Thoth, Marseille, and Y, all or none. I won't go into it too much. They are all pieces of a puzzle. They are all part of our history. They're all part of the whole thing. However people journey through tarot, I always encourage understanding a little bit about all the systems, actually. What are your thoughts on cardstock? I am incredibly picky. Let's not go into it. Anything that's grainy, I just get put off by. But, look, all power to the mass market decks and wherever we can get these days at a reasonable price. Bags or boxes. How did you learn tarot, get into it? I'm self-taught. I knew about the system when I was 19, so I'm prehistoric. I was a teenager in the 90s, but I learned about the RWS. Let me see if I can find an RWS here that I can grab. So yeah, I knew of the RWS, but what took me to the next point, I don't even know where I've put stuff right now. It's all over the place. But I think that what drew me, I can't find an RWS, I'm so sorry, to tarot, I'll just get the Golden Art Nouveau out right now. What drew me to tarot was, we have the High Priestess here. Beautiful. Look how beautiful this deck is. I think that and there's the Four of Cups again. I think that this way of looking at what's happening just invoked so much because of the imagery that I was intrigued. I wanted to learn. I wanted to get into it. But I knew tarot when I was 19, but I didn't get into it until I was, it was 2013, 2014, around that time. And I bought a book from Amazon by Joanna Bunning called Learning the Tarot. That was it. Best news in tarot world you heard lately? I have no idea. I'm just not into that news stuff. How many decks are on your kind of like wish list? I think 50 right now or more. If you could keep 3 decks, which ones would you choose and why? Oh, that was really tough. Please don't do that to me. No. So yeah, I knew this question was coming somewhere. We're 35 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap up as fast as I can. I would keep... See, I knew this was going to be horrible, and it is. I guess I would keep somewhere between... I mean, just... They're all like my soul. I don't know. I think it would be Keeper of the Sacred Bee, the 4-axer, which is my soul deck. And I think it's going to be Tarot of the Holy Spectrum Infinity Edition. But you know, I also need the Herb Crafters, and then the Paulina is what I began with, so I can't let go of her ever. You see what's happening? And then comes one of my favorite tarot decks ever, which is, of course, the Dream Keeper's Tarot. You can see that, like, I can't whittle it down to 3. I think even 10 would give me a heart attack. I did that Katie Flowers video a few years back of like only 10 decks, and I think I broke out in sweat and had a heart attack, and nearly gave myself, like, I don't know, some kind of a seizure. If you could turn back the time, would you learn tarot in any other way? Oh no, sorry, hold on a second. How does knowing the tarot influence your everyday? It really doesn't matter. I don't see the world through the eyes of tarot. I see tarot through the eyes of the world. It is meant to reflect us, not we reflect it. I am careful that the tool doesn't become the deity or the artisan. I just want to say that. If you could turn back the time, would you have learnt tarot in any other way? No. A book and a deck, and we're good to go. What are your thoughts on 3 of Swords? Can I even find a 3 of Swords right now? All of these decks that we've had out and about. What does the 3 of Swords and the Mother Tarot look like? This is going to be such a long video. I'm so sorry. At least we get to see what the 3 of Swords... Hopefully it's not so explicit. Oh, there's the Magician. There's... I knew this was going to be a tough deck too. Oh, way too much. Hold on a second. 5 of Cups. Okay, we're over the Cups. This is the Pentacles. So these are the Swords. Okay, so 4 of Swords. Okay, so this is the 3 of Swords. Okay, it tells you what you meant to see, but you know it's not too explicit. This is a stunning 3 of Swords. I find the 3 of Swords is highly misunderstood. I believe this is why it's so important to learn Marseille and Thoth, because the more we expand in the systems, the more there is a different way of seeing a card. And this actually reminds me of something that Astral Lady, Anna from Astral Lady, said recently in a video, which I would love to do a VR to as well, actually, about understanding cards in a 360 view rather than 3 of Swords, bad, it's heartache, my heart's gonna get crushed, I'm gonna die, kind of thing. Like, well, you know, like that's 10 of Swords, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I am someone who strongly thinks keywords are not the way to go. They're great for like the first 2 weeks of tarot, and after that, get rid of them. Otherwise, they will just block the intuition so much. And the experience. Experience is a key part of tarot. How many decks do you have right now? Okay, so I'm going to put this one away because I think it's a bit too racy for this video. I have 350, I think, going. That's a ballpark figure, of course. I think it's around 350. I think it's less than 400, but I cannot be 100% sure. I'm sorry. I stopped counting after a couple hundred. All right. Okay. What is your favorite part of the day to do tarot? Dawn. No, sorry. Let me go back. I keep missing questions. If you could befriend one person on Tarotube, who would it be? I have many friends. Thank you, everyone. I'm so privileged. So thank you, everyone who does respond to a question I put out there, who has always been kind and generous. Thank you. What is your favorite part of the day to do tarot? Dawn or dusk? A confession. Okay, so this is my confession. I think it's the last one. It's a bit of a rant. I get exhausted with analysis and analysis paralysis when I see it in the tarot community and the over-exaggeration. That doesn't mean not learning a key, but rather about when we make the decks almost as if they, like it goes back to it when they become gods, when they become Dionysus, or they become emperors, the decks themselves. The tarot, I mean, look at that, right? It just speaks to that language of be careful, exploitation. The tarot is a great tool. It was made and for people to use, part of games, part of, just everyday social elites in their lives. And, I think that there's such an over-exaggeration about how we all have to hate the church and all this stuff. Living in Europe, I just cannot agree to that kind of rhetoric. It doesn't mean that I don't believe that there hasn't been a persecution or, marginalization. I don't mean that either. What I'm trying to say is I don't like the distortion in history that happens for agendas. That's how I'm going to put it. So tarot is an avenue of exploration, of journeying, of discovering, of personal work, and also when people ask and they want an interpretation, of helping them as well. Let's take it as that. Let's take it as a frontier that just keeps going further, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I've rambled on and on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you again, Tarot is Magic, for this wonderful set of questions. I am so sorry I was late to responding, but thank you for watching if you're still here with me, and I wish you all a wonderful week wherever you are.